This is the OnePlus 12, quite possibly the battery king of 2024. Let's spend the day with it and see how it performs. Before we get started, here's a quick reminder of the leaderboard. Where do you think this phone will land? Getting started with my day, it was a rough start to begin with. Instead of starting at 8 o'clock, which is my usual start time for these tests, I actually started at 10 because the alarm just didn't go off. This is one of those things that I guess you kind of get used to by owning a OnePlus, where their software is pretty aggressive in shutting down background processes, and unfortunately that also includes the clock app from Google. I first experienced this with the OnePlus Open and then once again with the OnePlus 12. Because it's been a little bit since it happened to me, I just didn't think about it right away, and as soon as I woke up at 10 and didn't hear the alarm, I knew exactly what it was. To allow Google's clock app to work properly, I have to go into the battery settings and allow background processes on the app. So that's one thing to consider, that if you own a OnePlus and you have an app that you need to make sure is always running, you need to go to the battery settings on the app and make sure that it's allowed to run in the background. I'm sure this has a lot to do with the battery efficiency, which the phone does seem to be very efficient, but I kind of feel like OnePlus's OS should kind of realize if it's an important app like a clock or maybe a messaging app, those should really be allowed to run in the background as long as it's not excessive. I was fortunate enough that when I experienced it with the OnePlus 12, I had a backup alarm on my Pixel watch, so I didn't, get late to work, but it could have been pretty bad if I didn't have that backup. Switching to something positive, one thing that I really love about the OnePlus is how fast the facial recognition works. I can't attest for how accurate it is because I don't have those type of numbers. I highly doubt that's going to be as accurate as the Pixel 8 Pros, but it's so fast that in speed, it compares to the Pixel 8 Pro. It might actually be a little bit faster, and Samsung just can't compete with either of these two. The OnePlus 12's facial recognition makes Samsung feel like it's ancient and super slow. So I give a lot of props to OnePlus for the speed of their facial recognition. On the other side of unlocking, the fingerprint seems to be a little bit slow and inaccurate. And I'm giving it praise for being fast on the facial recognition. I kind of have to point out that the fingerprint reader is a little bit slow and more inaccurate than the other phones that I've tried. During my walk, I noticed that the screen wasn't as bright as I would like it to have been, and it was mostly at the end, so it could have been that it was, heat related or something like that. I had already taken a bunch of pictures and videos, so the phone was getting a little warmer, and that could kind of account for maybe dimming down the screen a little bit. But towards the end, the screen was a bit dim and making it difficult for me to see what I was recording, but it was good enough to at least get the job done. So we've reached 80%, and with a screen on time of 2 hours at this point, maybe just a little bit over 2 hours. So battery is feeding strong as expected. Let's see where it ends up. When I got back from my walk, I showered, ate, and watched some more Netflix and YouTube. And eventually at 3:40 p.m., I reached 60% battery with a screen on time of 4 hours. It's looking pretty good at this point, but I don't know if it's clear enough that's going to be in a top spot. And with the larger battery and the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, that's kind of where I would expect it to land. In terms of the phone's performance up to this point in the day, it's been basically perfect. There's been no hiccups. The software has been very snappy and responsive, and I haven't come across any bugs during this whole time with the phone. I would say the quality of the OS is pretty much as good as Google and Samsung. It's just a little bit different, and you might need to get used to it is all. My experience watching videos on this phone has been pretty great. I love the screen. It's very crisp, and the curved edge takes away some of the bezel on the top and bottom when you're holding it horizontally, and that kind of gives you a little bit more immersiveness when you're watching a video. So I don't think that any other phone is going to provide a much better experience, if at all, when watching content on the phone. The camera has performed great throughout the day. The pictures I took, I think, all look great, and the video was really good. I think as the brightness goes down a little bit, some of the weakness of the video kind of starts showing, but that's kind of the case with most phones. But even then, as long as you have some decent lighting, you're gonna have good results. And that's specifically with the video. With photo, it really does a pretty good job in every situation with the photos. The camera sensors are great. All three camera sensors are, top tier basically with the, sensor sizes and their capabilities. And I feel like this 3x sensor really does outdo itself in its performance. The 3x sensor punches so far above its weight class that it's almost like an ultra phone basically. If you compare it to Samsung's lineup, it's kind of in between the S24 Plus and the S24 Ultra in terms of range and capabilities. I won't say that it keeps up 100% with the Ultra's 5x sensor, but it's so close that we're really not missing out on much between the two phones. But the biggest kicker is just that the price at which this phone can be purchased compared to even the S24 Plus, this camera more than performs above its own price range. The one feature I'm super happy that OnePlus added to the OnePlus 12 is the wireless charging. It's one of the things that bugged me the most about the OnePlus Open, and throughout the whole process, I was reminded of how much I really do rely on wireless charging just for its convenience. So I am glad that OnePlus added the wireless charging on the OnePlus 12, and let me tell you, it performs great. It worked well with the Samsung charger I have, which I've come across issues with, you know, some phones and some wireless chargers, so I'm glad that it's working properly with that. And I also bought OnePlus's fast charger, AirVooc charger, and it's amazing on that. I will make a full video on the wireless charger, and I will cover into more detail of how it performs. But basically, with wireless charging on the OnePlus charger, the OnePlus 12 charges as fast as most of the phones in wired charging. And depending on the manufacturer, like Google, it's gonna charge faster than Google Pixel phones. They all charge way slower than this does on wireless charging. And in the event that you need to charge even faster than that, you can always go wired, and the 80-watt charging on the OnePlus 12 will charge it up very quick, even with the larger 5400 milliamp hour battery. So if you do happen to drain this battery, which the only way I could really think of doing this is like non-stop watching videos and maybe some gaming placed in there, or just heavy gaming, you can always refill it really fast with either option, honestly. As expected, I didn't get to drain the battery before I went to bed. It actually finished at 21%. So before I even got to the 20% mark where I usually take my first screenshot. And at 21% at 1:42 a.m., it was a late night, at least for me, the phone had 7 hours and 20 minutes of screen on time. That's an incredible time, and I think it mostly has to do with the extra 400 milliamp hours that it has on the battery compared to the S24 Ultra. But comparing it directly to the S24 Ultra on the leaderboard, it's getting an extra 50 minutes of screen on time, maybe even 60 if it gets all the way down to 20, then the S24 Ultra did it around the same time. And also the S24 Ultra finished at 16% in the day, and the OnePlus Open finished at 21%, so that's 5% extra that you're getting. So the OnePlus 12 did beat out the S24 Ultra and took the top spot in my leaderboard for battery performance. If you have the OnePlus 12, let me know how the battery and OS is performing for you. And if you found the video helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.